Last winter, 4 of baseball's biggest stars collectively set fire to over $150 million in guaranteed money. They didn't lose it in a Ponzi scheme or a bad investment. They lost it at the negotiating table. These players were represented by Scott Boras, the most feared agent in sports history. For 30 years, hiring Boras was a guarantee that you would crush the owners. But in 2024, the owners crushed back. This is the story of how data analytics finally broke the super agent model, killed the bluff, and changed the business of sports forever. To understand why this collapse happened, you have to understand the iron weight. This was Boras' signature move. While other agents signed deals in December, Boras would hold his clients out through January, February, and even into spring training. The goal was psychological warfare. He knew that if he waited long enough, a desperate owner or a panicked general manager would eventually crack. He capitalized on the mystery team, a phantom bidder he would often allude to in order to drive up the price. He would signal to the Yankees that a rival was offering $200 million, forcing the Yankees to bid $210 million just to save face. But that strategy relied on 2 things that no longer exist: ignorant owners and information asymmetry. In the 90s and 2000s, owners bought teams as vanity assets. They wanted to win the back page of the newspaper. Today, ownership groups are run by private equity firms and hedge fund managers. They don't care about the back page. They care about dollars per win. They are efficiency obsessed. More importantly, the information gap is gone. Boras used to walk into meetings with a 70-page binder full of proprietary statistics that the teams didn't have. He controlled the narrative. Today, every single front office employs a battalion of data scientists with projection systems that are 10 times more powerful than anything an agent possesses. When Boras tries to bluff about a player's value, the GM simply looks at their internal dashboard. The dashboard doesn't have emotions, and it doesn't fear missing out. This creates what looks like collusion, but is actually just the collusion of logic. Teams aren't illegally calling each other to fix prices. They just all use the same algorithms. If 30 different computers analyze the same player using the same inputs, they will all spit out roughly the same price tag. The variance is gone. Add in the Steve Cohen tax, the massive luxury tax penalties for exceeding payroll limits, and you have a hard ceiling that no amount of agent bluster can break through. The bluff is dead because the math is transparent. The consequences of ignoring this new reality were catastrophic for the so-called Boras 4, Blake Snell, Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman, and Jordan Montgomery. These 4 clients tested the market in 2024, expecting record-breaking paydays. Instead, they walked into a buzzsaw of efficiency. Take Blake Snell. He was the reigning National League Cy Young winner. In the old economy, a Cy Young winner gets a blank check. Reports suggest the Yankees offered him a 6-year deal worth $150 million early in the offseason. Boras and Snell turned it down, holding out for a deal closer to $200 million. They thought the desperation would set in. It didn't. The Yankees pivoted and traded for Juan Soto instead. The rest of the league looked at their spreadsheets and saw inconsistent innings. Snell had a history of failing to pitch deep into games, rarely crossing the 130-inning threshold in previous years. The analytics departments flagged him as a high-risk asset likely to regress. The market evaporated. Snell sat unsigned until mid-March, eventually settling for a 2-year, $62 million deal with the Giants. He bet on the prestige of his award. The teams bet on the durability of his arm. The teams won. Then there was Cody Bellinger. He was the perfect narrative candidate. A former MVP who had a massive bounce-back season with the Cubs, hitting .307 with 26 home runs. Boras marketed him as a superstar reborn, seeking a deal north of $200 million. But the front offices looked under the hood. Bellinger's underlying metrics, specifically his exit velocity and hard hit rate, were alarmingly low. The data suggested his 2023 stats were a statistical anomaly, a run of good luck that wouldn't repeat. Teams refused to pay for the surface-level stats. Bellinger was forced to crawl back to the Cubs on a short-term 3-year deal worth $80 million loaded with opt-outs. The algorithm predicted his decline before he even signed the contract. Matt Chapman faced a similar wall. He is an elite defensive third baseman, arguably the best in the game, but modern teams don't pay $150 million for defense alone. His offensive profile showed a hitter with holes in his swing and a batting average hovering around .240. Boras wanted to be paid for the total package, but teams itemized his value and refused to pay superstar prices for a one-dimensional asset. He projected a 7-year lock. He got a 3-year stopgap with the Giants. Finally, the most dramatic failure was Jordan Montgomery. He was a World Series hero for the Texas Rangers, the kind of reliable workhorse that usually sparks a bidding war. But as the winter dragged on, the silence was deafening. Teams were wary of his age and lack of elite strikeout numbers. The iron weight strategy dragged him all the way to the start of the season. With rosters full and budgets capped, he had to panic sign a 1-year, $25 million deal with Arizona just to have a place to play. It was a humiliation. The fallout was immediate. Montgomery fired Boras mid-season, the ultimate vote of no confidence. It was verifiable proof that the old model of wait and squeeze is obsolete. This brings us to the counterintuitive insight that is reshaping the industry. The superstar status that Boras sold for decades matters far less today than a metric called predictive durability. The fundamental shift is simple but brutal. Teams no longer pay for past performance, they pay for projected decline. In the old days, you are compensated for what you had already done. If you hit 40 home runs, you got paid for 40 home runs. Today, analytics departments have quantified the age curve with terrifying precision. They know that for the vast majority of athletes, performance falls off a statistical cliff the moment they cross age 30. When Boras demands a 7-year contract for a 31-year-old like Matt Chapman, the team's model screams danger. The algorithm calculates the likelihood of injury and regression in years 4, 5, and 6, and the value plummets. This is why teams have aggressively pivoted toward high average annual value on short-term deals. They are happy to pay a premium for 1 or 2 years, effectively renting the player's remaining prime just to avoid the long-term anchor. They would rather overpay today than be stuck paying a ghost tomorrow. This dynamic created the prove-it deal paradox. Agents try to spin these short contracts as a victory, a chance for the player to bet on themselves and re-enter the market next winter. But in reality, this structure shifts all the risk back to the player. It gives the team massive downside protection. If the player gets hurt or underperforms on that 1-year deal, the team can cut ties with zero long-term liability. The narrative that a player is a winner or a clubhouse leader has absolutely zero value in a negotiation room run by spreadsheets. The model doesn't care about your leadership qualities. It cares about the structural integrity of your elbow and the decline of your bat speed. So for the aspiring sports executive or future agent watching this, here's the new playbook for surviving the data era. First, you must establish data symmetry. You cannot bluff a math equation. If you walk into a room with adjectives and the GM has algorithms, you will lose. You must bring your own projection models to the table to challenge their inputs directly. Second, master the opt-out strategy. Since teams refuse to give 10 years of guaranteed security, flexibility is now more valuable than total dollars. You need to structure deals that protect the player's downside while allowing them to escape if they outperform the model. Third, prioritize durability narratives. The most valuable ability is availability. You have to build a track record of consistency early, because the models punish injury risk more severely than they reward talent. Finally, stop trying to charm the owner and start networking with the quants. Success now comes from understanding the specific inputs of a GM's algorithm. You aren't negotiating with a human. You are negotiating with their formula. The market is efficient. Fighting it is losing. The super agent era didn't die because Scott Boras suddenly forgot how to negotiate. It died because information became democratized. The wait and squeeze strategy relied on fear and uncertainty, but data eliminated both. Boras is still a titan, but his methodology is obsolete against a unified front of team analytics. In the new economy of sports, the spreadsheet always wins over the sales pitch. Subscribe for more breakdowns on the hidden economics of modern sports.